Hello, UK Crime Book Club. I am desperately trying to find places to put things at the moment, so if I look a little flustered, my desk isn't as tidy as it could be. I have got the lovely Michelle Kidd. I'm so excited. It was so lovely when I got to meet you in person. So this is really nice now, getting to interview you after we've actually met.
Yeah, brilliant. I've been on before with a panel, but yeah, it's great to see you exclusively.
It really, really is. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the series and show off the book covers?
Sure, yeah. I'll just put my cup of tea down, which happens to not be tea. So the first book
Mine is not a
is
cup of tea tonight. Mine is a cup of
no.
lager, as we've just discussed.
So the current series I've got out at the moment is the D.I. Jack Mackintosh series. So there are 4 books published at the moment. The first one is 7 Days to Die, followed by 15 Reasons to Kill, followed by 16 Carved Pieces, and then the last one at the moment is 20 Years Buried.
Fantastic. I'm just tagging the members in. So I'm not going to ask that question yet. I'm going to wait about 10 minutes till I know we've got more people watching before we talk about your move to a new publisher.
Right.
So tell me about where I was saying that this is shaping up to be one of my favourite series. Absolutely loving reading about Jack Mackintosh. Your writing style is just so up my street. It really is.
That's great. Great.
So tell us a little bit about where Jack came from. Did you have Jack in your head before you started writing this, or did you get to know him a little as you've gone along, or is it a bit of both? Do you get to know him better as you write him?
Yeah, good question. I think I had him in my head when I started writing what is the first book at the moment. I have got to know him more in the series as it's gone on. So I know him very well now.
Yeah.
But I think I had him in my head. I wanted him as the detective inspector. He was going to head up obviously the team. So I kind of had him in my head anyway at the beginning. But I think as the series has gone on, I've developed him. I've known more about him, things that I've discovered about him.
Why police procedural? You've started with basically a serial killer book, which I think what a genius way to start a series.
Uh-huh.
And we find this out very, very quickly that there is more than one victim. We find straight away, literally the opening chapter, you're at the scene of the second victim being found.
Yeah.
And quite accidentally, a buckle glinting in the sunlight, which I thought was such kind of it's such a really lovely way to offset such a brutal scene. Just to kind of make it something so simple and so delicate, and just kind of take a little of the sting out of the horror of it. I
Yeah.
thought that was a really clever idea.
Yeah. I think the image I wanted at the first scene was, yes, it's the scene of a murder, basically. It's a scene of a person being discovered. But life is going on around. I mean, it's rush hour. There's traffic going past.
And you're in the middle of London.
They will be completely oblivious to what's going on at the side. So that was kind of, I guess, my how I wanted to create that opening scene. That yes, something horrific has happened. Not everybody knows it. They're just carrying on with their day.
Which I think is really, really clever, because the people who are involved in this awful situation, obviously their lives come to a halt, which we do touch on in the book, and it's dealt with beautifully. It really is. You do feel like you sat in the room with families, with the family liaison officers and the families of these ladies. You you kind of take that pause with them, and you can feel. There's a scene where you write something about it's like the bricks know that the person's not coming back. You know, the house is changed completely by this person's lack of presence in it. We've gone quite deep quite quickly here because I'm really still really in this story. And I just think every single bit of it is so well done. You know, there's so many things that we can't talk about, but there's so many things that we can talk about as well. You know, the way you make the reader pause for thought about different things, I thought was really, really brilliantly done.
I do try to, well, maybe I don't try to, but I think subconsciously I may try to when I write it, is I try and leave a lot unsaid. It just leaves you as the reader to carry that on in your head before you get to the next bit. I try not to spell everything out because I don't think I need to.
Yeah.
I try to make the reader maybe think a little bit more for themselves as they read it.
I think that adds to the sense of depth of story as well. You are leaving us to consider our own feelings about things with the gaps that you leave. And it really does. It really kind of made me question different things. I'll say hello to Sarah, Donna and Laura as well. Hello. So before we came on, you were saying that you starting book 5. So tell us a little bit about the ideas behind the first 4, just kind of the idea from the blurb, maybe, so we're not giving too much away, just about what each one is. And feel free to look at the blurbs because I've dropped that on you. So with the first book, we've got kind of literally the tagline says, "A twisted killer, a deadly game of cat and mouse. Detective Jack McIntosh has 7 days to find the truth." And that really encompasses the first one. What about the next 3?
So, oh gosh, so the next 3. So in the next book, which is, if I remind myself, 15 Reasons to Kill.
So I know I can ask you this because I know they're at the side of you for you to glance at.
They are. So I'm looking at the side. So 15 Reasons to Kill is a book I wrote in lockdown, actually, the first lockdown. Now we've been through several.
Yeah.
And I remember the summer, the weather was really good. I think it started, obviously, lockdown started in about March, but April, May, June, it was just really nice weather. And I was obviously at home more than I would normally be.
Yeah.
And I wrote the book in the garden, basically, in lockdown. And so 15 Reasons to Kill is about Jack is obviously thrown into another investigation. This time, I don't want to give too much away, but the victims have got the number 15 tattooed on their skin. And so he's got to find out what the relevance of the number 15 is, and obviously stop anyone else becoming a victim. I don't want to say too much more.
No. That's great. We're just trying to give people a little idea of it for anyone who's not read them yet.
Yeah.
And the third one?
The third one is 16 Reasons to Kill. So the titles, I self-published all these books originally. So 16 Reasons to Kill is what I used to call the Bishop, and it's about another serial killer. He was a serial killer in the past. He's been resurrected and he's come back into Jack's patch. And the link is to 16 is he was called the Bishop because he leaves, not only at the scene does he daub on the walls with the victim's blood a bishop's mitre, which is his hat. He also leaves a hand-carved piece, a chess piece. So I called him the Bishop, and he is called the Bishop in the story, and he's been renamed 16 Reasons to Kill.
They are great titles. The original ones and the new ones are all fantastic.
Yeah.
What about the fourth one?
So the fourth one is 20 Years Buried, and I loved writing this book because lots of reasons. It's got sort of three cases, if you like, that all kind of, they progress at the same time and they hopefully all come together at the end. I have reasons why I really loved writing this book. I let my imagination run wild because there's highwaymen in it, even though it's a modern day book. And also one of the characters was an Australian backpacker.
Ooh.
And I used to have an Australian pen pal. I used to have pen pals back in the day when that was how you communicated with people. And I lost track. We lost communication when we were about 16. And I just thought, as I was writing this book, I thought, I wonder what's happened to her. So I just thought, obviously you try Facebook, but I thought her name didn't come up anywhere, but she might have got married, you don't know. I wrote to the last address I had, thinking, wow, she's not going to be there, is she, obviously? But her parents were. So they forwarded my letter to her. So we're now in contact.
That's amazing.
And I actually named my Australian backpacker in the book after her.
How did she feel about that?
She was really excited. Yeah, she thought it was great. So, so she's really supportive. And so she's now in my book. Yeah, I won't say too much about the book, but I loved writing that book. I just let my imagination really run wild with it.
But I did say we'd get to the point of how you came to your new publisher, who are Joffy Books.
Yes.
So do you want to tell people how that came about? I did ask you
Yes.
if I could tell, if you would be happy with telling this, and you did say yes, so I have asked permission.
Absolutely. No, I've got no problem saying. So Joffy Books I've known about for quite some time. They're a very big player in the publishing industry. So I started self-publishing in 2018. And it was last year, probably about January, I was just on the laptop, as you are, not much to do of an evening. I had a couple of glasses of wine, I will admit. I just happened to be, it might have been a Facebook post, I'm not sure what, about Joffy Books, looking for submissions. So I went onto their website and saw that you didn't need a synopsis, which is great because I hate writing the synopsis.
There's not many writers that I know that like them.
No, they just wanted the book. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to send it. So I sent, it's not one of the Jack books, it's one of my other series that I sent them. Just sent it to them. And I didn't think anything of it till about 6 weeks later. And I got an email saying they were very interested and could we have a chat and what about my other books. So yeah, sitting down with a couple of glasses of wine was a very good thing that I did.
Absolutely, really paid off. So what has the process been like? Because you said you self-published them before. What has it been like working with a team of people this time? So I'm assuming editors and you talking to you must have a contact there that you talk to. What's that been like working with, going from working on your own to working with a team of people? It must be very different.
It's very different, but I've absolutely loved it because obviously I self-published, so probably for about 4 years before I got with Joffy Books, where you do everything for yourself. But Joffy have been brilliant. The editors there are amazing. So they do really pull apart your book, which the first time round is quite distressing because you think it's a perfect book. And they suddenly start dismantling the whole thing but it is such a great process to go through because they make it a better book. I think once you get that into your head that they're making it better, it's great. I love it. I can just forget. I can just concentrate on the writing. I don't have to worry about marketing or book covers or all of this kind of thing. I just write the words. So yeah, I think it's great.
And 7 Days to Die is set in 2012. Were you writing it then? Or did you just decide to set it there? No, you said you wrote it in one of them in lockdown.
So I wrote the next one in lockdown. So yeah, this one wasn't written in 2012 at all. So I'm a few years ahead of Jack. So yeah, I don't know. I think I just I knew I wanted a time frame for him. I wanted him to be under pressure to solve the case. And I thought, well, why is he under pressure? And I don't know why the London Olympics popped into my head, but it just popped into my head. And I thought, oh yeah, he's got to get it done before then. So yeah, so it was written quite a few years afterwards.
It's a really clever idea. I mean, authors are always looking for different things. So I was speaking to Trevor Wood, put his book in the middle of a snowstorm, in the middle of a fictional village, so that people, there was difficulty getting in and out. I had somebody who set it, Helen Fields, set it in an institution on an island somewhere up a hill so that the storm could come in and, remove all of the technology that they were used to. It's just such a clever idea. I need something to speed it up. Yeah. Right, okay. Olympics. We've got a week to get it, to get it resolved before the Olympics. That's really clever.
I could have chosen anything, but I don't know why that popped into my head. But it just did. And I thought, yeah, he needs to get it done before that starts. So that's why I went with it.
It's a nice idea as well, because your book's set in London, so you are firmly placing it at a specific time, at a huge historical event for London, and for the UK in general. I think that's brilliant, because surely that's going to appeal to so many audiences as well. People are fascinated from all over the world. People are fascinated with London. So to put in, and you've got tourists in there, and you've really kind of made good use of it, albeit the week before, so the fringes of it.
Yeah, I think it was a good thing to do. I mean, I went down to London. I didn't see any of the Olympics. I went down around the Olympics, the Olympic Park, which was great. So I had these memories of being there, even though I didn't see any events as such. So I just went with that idea.
So when you started writing, what kind of drew you towards writing crime? Was it partly to do with your previous careers, or have you just always liked crime fiction?
I think looking back now, I probably did always like crime fiction. I think my parents always had crime-ish books in the house. They watched stuff on TV, but I think probably when I left uni, I did go into the legal profession. So I became a legal executive at a firm of solicitors and I specialised in litigation, but it was more the criminal litigation. So I kind of went into the criminal world, if you like. And I think looking back, that probably did have an effect on maybe what I want to write about, because I think subconsciously I do draw from my experiences. I might not think I am, but I think I probably am.
Yeah, I can't imagine you not using things that maybe not specifics, maybe not facts about people, but there must be things that you've gleaned from kind of watching how different teams of people react to each other, and different kind of speech patterns, even different ways that, because you do distinguish your characters very well, so you can kind of look and know who's speaking. So I think surely a lot of that comes from being around groups of people in these scenarios without you really ever using anything that can be traced to somebody.
Yeah, I think subconsciously it does come through. I've mixed with so many different clients who were my defendants as such. And I do think some of their personalities come through in my characters. I might not think I'm doing it, but I'm sure I am, because they're very extreme characters, some of them. And I think I probably do draw on some of their characteristics.
But that's another thing, isn't it? You want the extreme characters to be kind of boiled down a little bit, because it's a really fine line, isn't it? Between, people say, obviously, truth is stranger than fiction. You can't really get away with the things that happen in the real world a lot of the time. I think it's such a delicate balancing act.
Yeah, there's no stranger people than normal people, really. I do think now, looking back, there's one of my characters who I know I have based on someone I used to know. Just looking back, I don't think at the time I wrote him, I was thinking of him, but looking back, I think, yeah, that's you, definitely. You can't help doing it.
You mentioned that your friend, your Australian friend, is a character, a named character in the book.
Yeah.
Do you get people asking you to put them in books, or do you get people worried that they might be in your books and you think, well, no, that's not you at all?
I haven't had anyone ask to be in a book, but I have asked, certainly at work. So I work at my local hospital, and we have our own intranet, staff intranet. And I have asked people, I'm looking for names, who wants to be in a book? And there is someone who is going to be in a future book. It's not this series with Jack, it's my other series. And she is going to be one of the characters in there, just because she put her name forward. But I did have to ask. No one has ever volunteered.
Donna's putting her hand up. I was waiting for that. Donna Morfitt has her hand up.
Donna, you can be in a future book. So yeah, names. I get names from all sorts of places. So I often watch TV. You know, when the credits roll at the end of a program, I look through the names and think, "What's a good surname? That's a good Christian name," and I write them down. So I like the sound of them. But if people want to be in my books, that's great. Just volunteer.
Would you let them have any say in their character, or is it you volunteer, you get what you're given?
I think you get what you're given, I'm afraid. If you die, you die. I'm sorry, but that's it.
Sarah Blackburn said, "Me, please, you could make me a villain, lol."
Yeah, I can do that, no problem.
Sarah also wants to know, how do you keep track of your characters, descriptions, ages, characteristics, etc.? Do you have a notebook or a spreadsheet? How organised are you?
Well, I think I should be more organised. As the series is progressing, I do sometimes forget how old people are supposed to be. I do have a spreadsheet of sorts, but it should be better. I have a vision in my head what people look like, so that's okay. But I do forget the aging process and how old people are and where they live, and I should be a little bit more organised in that respect, I think, as we go forward.
Easy to say, when you write the first book, you think you'll remember everything. You're currently writing book 5.
Yes.
Gets a bit tricky.
It does. So when I write my books, I write longhand. I write with a pen and paper. I don't write on a screen. I'm often just writing little notes to myself. Check how old you are. Check this, check that, because I can't remember at the time that I'm writing it.
I think the note systems are really good when I use that for a lot of things, so that it stops me from getting stuck in that I need to go back and find that. So if I'm looking at somebody's work, I'll make a note. I've constantly got notebooks at the side of me. And it's supposed to be one notebook for this, one notebook for that. I just have the one that I'm currently using. I'll know which one it is to go back to. But I think, the easiest way of not getting stuck on something is to make a note and then come back to it.
Yeah. Even character names. I'm writing at the minute. I'm quite early on in Jack book 5, so I'm about a third of the way through. I don't have an idea what the character names are, other than the main characters I know. The other people, I've got no idea what to call them, so I'm calling them Victim 1, Victim 2, this person, this, because I don't want to worry about what they're called just now. That comes at the end. So
Yeah.
I have lots of notes of whoever people are going to be called at the end.
I like that idea. Donna said, thank you. As long as I'm not some kind of, I can't believe you're going to make me say this. As long as I'm not some kind of sex crazed character, or people are really going to start wondering about me.
Okay, can't promise, but do you mind if you die? That's the real crux.
I'm sorry, Donna. You've just given us a character idea. Somebody's going to write you as a sex crazed character.
I'm thinking already what character that could be.
Cogs are turning, Donna. Sorry, not sorry. You're going to throw these ideas out there. People are going to use them. Talking about kind of teams, and I was saying about you looking around and seeing different people in different aspects of work and life in general. How fun was it creating a team? Was it fun with the police team? Are there pitfalls to creating one that you found? Hi, Cass.
Scenes. So just repeat the question. Sorry, you ducked out for a minute there.
So teams, when you're creating a police team, were there any pitfalls that you found? Did you find it fun to write them? There's somebody that I already love to hate.
Yeah. So I think the police team I created with the Jack books and also my other series, I tried to create a team that worked well together. I didn't want to create characters people didn't like. So Jack is very much a well-respected DI. And the people that work with him like working with him. I didn't want to create characters that didn't like working with him, or it was a team that didn't work well. So I wanted a very positive team. So that was my vision of creating his team. I wanted the characters in his team to be very nice, but I wanted them to work well and to get on, basically. I didn't want any bad feeling within the team as such.
So is that why you brought in Carmichael, so that you could kind of have somebody who is technically part of the team, but not really?
Yeah, so Carmichael is slightly different. So he comes into the team, but when you get to the end of the book, you'll kind of find out what he's all about. So I don't want to say any more about him. So he is slightly the runt of the team, but he's slightly separated from the rest of them. But there is a reason for that, which comes apparent a bit later on.
I'm not quite there. I'm really looking forward to seeing, because I know something's leading somewhere. I just don't know where it's leading. Donna said, not in the least, kill away. Don't forget I'm writing too. Is that do I need to start behaving?
Yes, I think we might have to.
Do you want to tell us about your other series while we're here?
So the other series, unfortunately, I don't have any books because they are currently about to be republished with new titles, new covers. So my second series is actually based in the town I now live in, which is Bury St Edmunds in Suffolk. So it's a very quiet town. Nothing happens. So I thought I might create a detective series here where lots of people die, because I thought it might be quite exciting. So I released a book a couple of years ago. It follows another detective inspector, but it's a female this time. It's Nikki Hardcastle. And so I released this book, as I say, a couple of years ago. And it's called Guilt, but it's now going to be republished with Joffy next month under a new title, new cover and everything. So I'm excited about that because there's a lot of local interest about it, because I draw on a lot of local landmarks and things which the local people around here really loved. So that's coming out next month. And I have just submitted the second book in that series to Joffy, and we're currently going through the editing process on that. So there will be a second book, hopefully not too long after next month as well.
Fantastic news. Just while we're on the subject, you've had quite a few. I will get to everyone's questions and comments, sorry. You've had quite a few publication dates this year because of the republishing. So have all 4 come out in the last 6 months?
Yeah, so all 4 have come out since January.
Oh, in the last 4 months. Okay.
It's
Well,
all
not
been,
even 4.
it's been it's been very frantic. So 7 Days to Die came out in January, and Joffrey released the other 2, the other books series every 2 weeks. So I've had 4 books since January. So it's been very, very chaotic, but very exciting as well.
Did you handle the publication date, because it was 7 days before and it's 7 Days to Die now? What did you do? I'm intrigued. The publication days for 7 days and then for 7 Days to Die. Was there any difference between how you celebrated them? Did you celebrate them?
I'm not sure I did. I think it was such a busy time that each book was coming out so quickly. I don't think I had time to breathe between each one. But I think it was a very good thing, because it's just kept the story and the characters going, that suddenly there's another book and there's another book and then there's another book. There'll be a brief hiatus while I write the next one, but hopefully it won't be too long.
How many books per year is it going to be? A book a year, 2 books for the series?
Yeah, it's difficult to say because I work full time at the hospital. So I write in my spare time, but I've negotiated slightly different working hours. So I'm working. I have got an extra day a week now that I can devote to writing. I'm hoping to write a book of each every year, but if I can do it quicker, then I will.
Don't know how you're doing it. I really don't know. It's really inspiring that authors have full-time jobs and lives and everything else going on and still manage to write.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you why. Is I'm really boring and I don't do anything else in my spare time except write my books. So that's what I tell everyone. Say, how do you do it? I say, well, I don't do anything else. So that's all I do.
I just read for interviews. Other than work and family, I sit here. This is where I live. This is where I where I spend most of my time is where you all see me on camera. Which is why my desk is a bit of a nightmare at the minute. I might show you afterwards. I'm not showing everyone now. Donna will never let me hear the end of it. So I'm going to go through some of these comments, but not in order. Donna said, "Too late, Sam. Way too late." Who? I'm intrigued to know who she has killed off or made a character or. Oh dear! I suddenly have a feeling in the pit of my stomach. Really interesting. Kaz said she's watching Godzilla versus Kong. This is a brutal question. If you could pick 2 detectives from any series together, who would you make fight and who would win? I can't even think of 2 detectives off the top of my head. My mind goes blank when people ask things like that.
Who would I make fight?
Who would you make fight?
Let's have, well, let's have Rebus. Right, he could fight someone. And, oh gosh, who could we have? I can't think of someone else.
I can't think of any detectives. My mind has gone completely blank. We'll have
Except I have my detective. Jack will fight Rebus. I think Rebus might win, to be honest.
Okay. What a question that was. Donna said, Kaz said, Donna Moffat, I'm a man-eating pathologist in Jenny O'Brien's book. And I'm married to the only man I've ever dated. Fiction is awesome. Fiction is, in fact, awesome. I mean, I don't even know where to begin with some of these. I've got a completely different question that I wrote down earlier on. Is there any job in or with the police that you would want? You've got a wide range of characters. So they're working with pathologists. You've got obviously all of the different police ranks. You've got a profiler. I mean, there's so many different options. Front desk seems to have a really good laugh. You know, it's kind of, you've got different relationships within there that work really well, is there any job that you would pick? Not that you'd necessarily give it all up for now, but what do you think would interest you the most?
Yes. What would I like? I did consider when I was about 18 joining the police. I can't remember why I didn't. I think I don't know why, but I didn't pursue that avenue. I do like the whole pathology side. Obviously, being medical, I'm in the medical profession now. I do like the whole pathology side. Not sure I'd make a good doctor, to be honest, but I think pathology, I'm quite interested in the whole cause of death and the bit that happens after. So if I was to be pressed, I might say the pathology route.
Interesting. I really am quite drawn to profiling, I think. I don't think I could do pathology. I think I would be that person who I don't think I could be a detective. I'd be the person throwing up at the side of the crime scene.
Yeah.
I have a very keen sense of smell. I do not think it would go well. I don't know. We all like to think we'd be really good detectives.
Yes.
But especially because I can spot things in a crime book. So surely I'd make a good police detective.
Sure, you could do it in real life, yes.
And sure, it's just that easy. Not
Yes.
even one little bit. No, I'd be the person. I reckon I'd remember my gloves. I don't think I'd be sneezing at the crime scene. Kate Bendelow would kill me if I poked anything with a pen. So, no picking up evidence with my pen, none of that. But
yes,
I don't know. I'm clumsy enough as it is. I can't maneuver around my office without knocking into things. So I would be useless. I just can't imagine. Cannot imagine. Kaz wants to know what events you've got coming up this year, and Sarah Blackburn would choose the front desk as a job. I think it'd be fascinating on the front desk. It's where all the action happens.
You wouldn't know what was coming in next, would you?
No.
So events coming up. So I'm going to Harrogate and I'm going to Capital Crime, but just as an ordinary member of the public. But they're great events, so I love both of those. I am coming to your Leeds event in June. Can't wait to come and see that.
Really excited for it.
I'll be there. I will be bringing a few books if anybody would like to have a copy of a book. I'm hoping to put some in my suitcase. I'm coming on the train, so I can't bring many, but I hope I can bring some. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to your Leeds event, definitely. That's really kind of the first event I'm coming to this year.
Really? That's fantastic. I don't know what it is. Sorry, I keep touching my eye. I've got something in it, which is really frustrating. I did ask permission earlier on from the admins, because even though we're admins, we still ask permission for things that any author or anybody else would need permission for. So I did ask if we could talk about capital crime, because it is where we met last year, which was really nice. When somebody that you know kind of walks up and says hello, it's the nicest thing. It was really lovely, and it was a really nice atmosphere.
You think you know someone because you know their face, you've seen them on the screen so many times, but you physically haven't met them before, but you feel like you have.
Yeah.
It's quite a surreal feeling, to be honest. But yeah, it was great. I love Capital Crime, so I'll be there again this year.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely can't wait. I think it was really nice because you do get to meet people that I think sometimes you expect to recognise people and then they look different in real life than they do on camera.
Yes.
It's the strangest thing. It really is.
Yeah.
And then you kind of turn around and you think, I know you. Why do I know you? Are you an author? Do you blog about books? Why do I recognise you? And you're frantically trying to bring people's names to the front of your mind.
I'm not very good at names or faces, to be honest. I have a real blank with names and faces. So if I look blankly at people that I'm supposed to know who you are, I do apologise. It's just something about me that doesn't link names to faces very well.
Yeah, no, I'm hit and miss is what I'd say. I can be looking at somebody and thinking, I know who you are, what is your name? And I will go absolutely blank because of pure panic. And then it'll come to me eventually. So, for example, I met Anthony Dunford in person last year. Lovely author, met him online, watched a brilliant interview with him, and then he had glasses on and he introduced himself. And I was looking at him and I was thinking, I'm sure I recognise you, but... And then I was like, oh my word, you're Anthony Dunford. His glasses, he looked so different. He looked so bewildered by me kind of stood in front of him trying to place him. But he really did look very different with his glasses on.
Just
The
staring at
strangest
him.
thing. I know. Yeah, I'm a bit of a walking nightmare, I think we've gathered. Donna's saying, I knew William Shaw. Yes, I did. His books live here. And I involuntarily jumped up and down. It's a good job you didn't see me. I'm so excited to meet him. Sarah's looking forward to meeting you in Leeds and Harrogate, and she said yes,
Excellent.
please, to one of your books. There you go.
I
We've
will
sold
see
the
you
first
there.
signed copy.
Yeah.
So are you just bringing this series with you, or will you by then have some of your new series, the Nikki series?
I'm hoping, so I will bring some of 7 Days to Die with me, which is the first book of this series. I'm hoping publication for the new series is supposed to be the 10th of May, so I'm hoping I will have some paperbacks to bring with me for the other series as well.
Fantastic. Good idea to have some of the first series. Little tip for you, bring all your books in the suitcase, put your clothes in a different bag that you can then empty them into the suitcase afterwards and drag all the weight. That's how I got home from Capital Crime. All of the books went in the suitcase and I was using tote bags and carrier bags to take my clothes back on the train.
I might just wear the same thing for a couple of days, you know, it's not a problem.
Not a problem whatsoever. We wanted to talk about Livy.
We do.
So tell people who Livy is for anyone who hasn't read yet.
So Livy, who unfortunately hasn't come down the stairs tonight, even though I asked her to. So Livy, she appears in the D.I. Jack Mackintosh books. She's in from 7 Days to Die onwards.
Yeah.
So she is the cat that lives with Isabel in the cafe. So Isabel's got a wonderful cafe. I really want to go there.
Yeah, me too. I'll come with you. Have you found
lots
it?
of books and comfortable sofas, and you can just curl up and read a book while you have your coffee. So Livy actually lives in the cafe with Isabel. She's a tabby cat who was from a rescue centre, and she's based on my own tabby cat called Livy, who I got from a rescue centre. So Livy is immortalised in my books.
I love that. I love that so much. Is Isabel's Cafe based on a real place, or is it something, have you just put places that you liked together?
Yeah, so it's not a place I've been to. So I do like a cafe, and I have been to lots of cat cafes. So I say lots. I've been to one in London. I've been to one in Birmingham. I do like a cat cafe, but this isn't a cat cafe. So I've just combined a nice cafe with lots of books, which I like reading, and then a cat. So I thought I'd just bring them all together into one place.
I like that. I like that a lot. And you've used real locations. Is there, other than Isabel's Cafe, is there anywhere that isn't a real location? Because you've used St James's Park, you've used another park, which the name of it is not coming to mind.
Yeah. So in most of the Jack books, I try to use real life London locations where I can. So in 7 Days to Die, a lot of the bodies are found in London parks. So you've got your Green Park, you've got Hyde Park. I think
Hyde
there's even
Park
one
I was
in
trying to think of.
Battersea. Yeah, so they're real locations. I do, certainly in the other series as well, in my hometown, I use real locations, but I do have a little bit of a literary discretion when it comes to road names and house names. So people might not want their house the home of a serial killer. So you kind of make up the road name, those kind of locations. But I try to put some London locations in my Jack books just to give people a bit of sense of location.
There is, I won't say the book, it's not an author that's in our group, certainly not somebody that I've interviewed, but it's a book that I loved. And the address used in this book is one of my old neighbours. And I have no idea if they know. It's not a crime scene, it is just an address of somebody, but I have no idea whether they know that their address has been used in a fictional way.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So when I try to look for a street name, I try to Google whether that street name exists in that town or that city, just to try and maybe not use that one. You have to be a little bit careful that you don't drop someone's home address into your book.
I do believe there are some phone numbers that are kept for fiction purposes.
Which
I think is really
which I
clever.
didn't know. I didn't know when I self-published. I was putting all sorts of made-up numbers in. I hadn't got a clue that there are certain a series of numbers that you use for fictional mobile phone numbers.
Clever. It is clever that somebody thought to do that. Otherwise, you would have 5,000 people, ringing this one number.
Just trying that number just in case.
I like the idea of that. So you told us a little bit about books 1 to 4. Do you know much about? You said you're about a third of the way through book 5. Do you know much about it yet?
I think I pretty much know where it's going.
Okay.
So I don't plot meticulously a book. I have a general idea of the plot line, generally where it's going. I have an idea of what other characters I might need to bring in, but then I just go for it and I always write the first scene first, but then I could write anything. So I don't write in chronological order. I don't write chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. I write sporadically. I might write a scene near the end, then the middle, then the beginning, and I write all these scenes on their own. And I move them all about and put them together. It's very chaotic, and I sometimes think it might be a little bit more stressful than it needs to be, but it's just the way my mind works, that I have ideas of scenes I want to write, but not necessarily the order that they're going to be in.
I find that fascinating. So you just kind of go in with whatever comes, and then figuring out the order, and then going back once you've got all of the words to make sure everything ties up, and play with clues. And wow, I think that's really fascinating.
I'll get to a certain point where I've written some scenes. I then type them up, obviously, because I've handwritten them.
Of course, yeah.
And then I'll move them about, and I'll think, oh, there's a gap there. I need to write something to go in there. And it's, I don't know if it's a logical way to write, but it's the way I seem to do it.
Has it been the same since you wrote your first book?
Yeah, I've always been that way. I don't know how else to do it, because my brain just kind of, it jumps from scene to scene, and I think, oh yeah, they've got to do that, or that character needs to do that, and I just have to write that at that time, and I'll worry about what order it comes in later.
Laura's just asked a good question. Would you ever do a crossover book with your two detectives? Now that is a good question. Or maybe let them make cameo appearances?
Funnily enough, I did toy with the idea. I think I'm writing as I said, writing the second book in my other series with the female DI. When I was writing her second book, I did toy with the idea of kind of trying to get Jack into that book in some way. And there was a scene where I thought they might connect. In the end, I binned it, but I do think I would like the two series to interconnect at some point. I'm not quite sure how, but it is in my head that I quite like that idea.
I remember watching it in one of the CSIs a long time ago. It's a long time since I've watched them, but where they had, I don't know if it was kind of Miami and New York, or they had two of them. And I know it was Miami, but I don't know for definite which other series it was. And they did have them kind of meet each other. There was a crime scene that involved both of them. And I did think it was really clever. And I cannot remember the storyline for the life of me off the top of my head. It was years ago. But I do like things like that. I know there's authors who do kind of give little nods to other books from other authors as well. Would you do that?
Yeah, I wouldn't say no to anything, but I do think I do quite like the inference to something else. I do quite like that idea. So it's in my head that that's something I'd like to do at some point.
I like that
I've
idea.
got to do it quite cleverly, I think, to make it work.
I wonder if your method of doing it will help with that, or, you know, because it might just throw an idea in somewhere that you think, oh, actually, that really works with the timeline. Are both books set at the same time? Both series?
They're kind of not. So I started the Jack book. So he is quite a few years behind the current date. So I think the Jack book that I'm writing at the moment, which is Jack book 5, is only 2014. I'm quite a few years behind. And the reason I don't want to bring him up to date is he'll age too much. So I started him at a certain age, and I thought, I don't want you to be too old that you're going to retire. So he's still in 2014 at the moment. Nikki, who's my female DI in my new series, she's slightly more up to date. She's like 2018-19. So
it's workable.
Not quite in the same timeline.
But it's workable. There's no reason that they couldn't.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she could go back in time a little bit. No, she could be before my books start. She could enter Jack's world in some way.
Yeah.
There's lots of things I could do.
Definitely. We've only got 5 minutes left, and I've got so many things left to ask you. Have you been able to read or watch anything crime related lately that you've really enjoyed?
I do try and watch a lot of crime dramas on TV. I'm a bit behind with quite a lot of them. I do, as I said, I do read every night. I do try and read every night before I go to bed. There's lots of books I love. I just finished Mark Edwards' book. I'm quite a few books behind, I think. Here to Stay, I think it was called.
Oh, yeah, it's.
Love that book.
I thought it was behind me there. I think I've moved it to a different shelf. I'm trying to organise my office. That's a brilliant book.
Yeah, such a good book. I just finished the second book in the Ben Aravinich books, the River of London books.
I haven't read them yet, but Kaz loves them.
They're really good. They're such a different slant on your normal detective book. So yeah, I love.
Okay. I did wonder when Michelle had frozen on my screen whether it was me or whether it was Michelle that had frozen. So if you can still hear me waffling, somebody let me know. I'm going to carry on regardless, and let's see what I come up with. So because this does sometimes happen, I printed out the blurb for the first Jack Mackintosh book. So this is now called 7 Days to Die. It was originally published just 7 days, but it has been re-edited. So it is, a different version now. A twisted killer, a deadly game of cat and mouse. Detective Jack Mackintosh has 7 days to find the truth, which feeds into what Michelle was saying about choosing something that, a race against time. This had to be sorted out before the Olympics. Won't say whether it was dealt with in time or not, but you'll have to read it and find out. A young woman is discovered strangled in Hyde Park wearing only one shoe. Close to the body, Detective Jack Mackintosh finds a black stiletto, diamante buckle glinting in the early morning sun, but it doesn't belong to the victim. 2 days later, another young woman is found strangled to death in nearby Green Park, wearing just one shoe, the matching stiletto. Hidden in the long grass beside the body, the police uncover a low-heeled court shoe. Detective Jack and his team are in a race against time to find the owner of the court shoe before it's too late. At the same time, Jack is fighting demons of his own, demons which rise up from the past and threaten to cloud his judgment just when he needs it most. Detective Jack is hunting a brutal killer, a killer who delights in playing twisted games. Who will win this deadly battle of wits? Thank you for joining in if you are still with us. Michelle hasn't come back and we are just about out of time. So you can find her books on Amazon. It's published with Joffy Books, and the new Nikki series will be out soon. Thank you all so much for joining us and for your brilliant questions and comments. Donna, what have you done? It should be really interesting to find out. Thank you all so much for joining us, and good night.